Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where right now is 1921. Yeah, it's late in the evening, but that's because, well, I woke up 2 or 3 hours ago. Needless to say, it was a bit of a crazy night yesterday. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Sure, sometimes you need to blow off some steam, and that's what we did. But even though I'm actually here today to talk about that, to some extent, it's not what we're going to start with. What we're going to start with is talking a bit about the news that has been happening over the last week. And why are we talking about that? Well, because it's time for... What's it time for? It's time for the Saturday News Recap! Recap the SNR, that weekly goodness of business and just interesting news shaping the society as we know it. And we are going to take up the most interesting pieces of news over the last week. I've been reading a lot of stuff this week because, well, I haven't had that much to do. And I picked two good ones that are actually going to bounce off each other because they're taking up the positive and negative aspects of, what should we say, categorization at a large scale. This entire, what should we say, group behavior. We're going to take that up. Some people say it's religion. Some people say it's just categorization and group behavior. You know, people like me. So this might be a bit controversial. I know that the second news piece we're going to take up is widely controversial. So just a disclaimer, if you're easy to get offended, then you probably shouldn't watch. That put aside though, it's time to get into some bloody news. And as I said, I have two news pieces for you. International incidents, and then after that we're going to talk a bit about what happened yesterday, because that's going to be the kind of the personal news that is related to me and this channel, which is hella fun. Anyway, so let's start to go into it. And the first one is that the Pope is encouraging all Christians, people all over the world really, but probably mainly Christians, since, you know, he's the Pope and they kind of look up to him and listen to him, especially the Catholics, even though I would argue that many Christians do listen to what the Pope has to say. Now, I'm not an expert, so feel free to correct me on that. But I think it's amazing that someone that is in an opportunity of power, in a place so high up in the hierarchy of their organization or of their group, is taking an initiative that people will probably actually listen to, in something that is, what should we say, a positive initiative. Not like the Pope, what should we say, a couple of years ago, that said that condoms increased the rate of AIDS or something like that. It was something stupid like that, just because, well, they're kind of against using condoms that were spreading what I would be considering to be lies. So it's nice to see that we have not only a hip and new and young Pope, young being a relative term, but also a Pope that seems to be very interested in in society and how we actually work with society. A very pragmatic Pope, if one can argue, if there ever was one, right? At least that is how I'm seeing it. And of course it's good that we're taking up this issue with clean and renewable energy, especially, as I said, someone that is a role model to so many people, someone who has an army behind them. We shouldn't say an army, because that sounds like a militaristic force, but someone that has that many people supporting the same cause. And then when they all look up to the leader, and the leader says, let's do a clean new initiative, they're probably going to follow. So that's amazing. And a really good use of religion and group behavior in society. Can't argue with that. I actually say I support that fully. Even though that is the case, we're now going to move into some more controversial areas. Even though some people argue that, you know, just talking about religion is controversial, neither if it's good or bad, and talking about recyclable energy, clean energy, and the greenhouse effect and all of that is also very controversial to even take up to begin with. So, but still, that's not equally as controversial as the news piece we're going to move into. Because I found this in Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. And I was like, we just hit pure gold. Because it's both hilarious and really awful at the same time. I'm not saying hilarious like haha hilarious. It's more like, it's a court case that I kind of reviewed for a while now. I've been looking at it from time to time, because I think that it's such an obvious answer to how they would go about solving the problem, the issue, and the situation. And that action was not taken. Which in itself is hilarious, that I'm seeing a court of people, right? A court of judgment taking such a bad decision on some grounds. Yes, they did have grounds for the decision, but still, it was ludicrous. Anyway, I'm gonna join you in on what I'm talking about. Well, in 2012, there was a gay couple in the US, I believe it is, that wanted to get married, which was 2000 fresh. It was allowed in the state. So they went to a bakery and they wanted to have a wedding cake. Now is where we're getting into the crazy part. Because the person making the cake, a guy there by the name of which I do not remember, but you can read it because I'm sure it's going to be all over every news outlet out there, because it's kind of a centerpiece of news for this area. It's not a landmark case of any means, of any stretch of the imagination, unfortunately, but it can probably be used to, reference in the future. Anyway, this guy was telling them no. So, we have two gay guys. I assume that it wouldn't be a difference if there were two lesbians or anyone who wasn't straight, right? But let's just get something straight. It doesn't matter if you're straight or not. Yeah, pun intended, absolutely. As a show off how stupid it is. And this got me really mad. When I was reading about this, as I said, I've been following it very, very loosely. But I've still seen some coverage of it here and there over the years, because first of all, it's taken 5 years, 6 years from 2012 to now, depending on how you count, for this court case, or for this case actually, to just get done. But sure, that's not being able to be avoided. It's you're standing in a queue when it comes to these kind of things, but still, that it needed to go to court to begin with. Isn't that really strange? Because we're talking about a wedding, and they were allowed to have this wedding, which I would argue is the bigger controversy. Even though I'm very pro these things, I would say that if you love someone, then it doesn't really matter who you love. Now, doesn't it? Now, does it? I would say no, doesn't matter. If you love someone, you love someone. You can't really change who you are in that regard, right? I mean, you probably could try and elude yourself and try and trick yourself a lot, but if you love someone in a certain way, then, well, you kind of do. It's not that much to do about it, so let just everyone love everyone, anyway, or anyone they want to. Anyway, so I can see how that's a controversy to some people. I do not agree, but I can see that it has been a topic of conversation and controversy to if they're allowed to get married at all, which yet again, ludicrous, of course they should. But then having that passed and say, like, yeah, sure, you can get married, and having the cake being issue. It's just me. It probably can't be just me, right? But I'm not usually cursing, at least I don't say so, but it's fucking stupid that that's the case. I mean, it's so dumb that two guys, just because they happen to love each other, go in to get a cake, and the guy is chanting some religious stuff about how it's wrong being in a gay relationship. I mean, it's so obvious that shouldn't be an issue, and it's so obvious that it's not a problem, that the fact that the court actually ruled in favor of the bakery is hilarious in and within itself, because that's just showing me that the people in court, or whatever, someone took a very bad interpretation of the law. And the basis for this judgment, which I can see to some extent, was that, well, there shouldn't be any discrimination or favoritism based on religion or sexuality in court. So they couldn't rule against, this guy, Christian as he was, starting chanting off that it's wrong to be gay, and based on that, deciding not to cater to the couple. We can't say that that's wrong, because we can't do any religious discrimination. However, as soon as there's a terrorist out there and they happen to be a Muslim, the entirety of the Islamic world is getting painted as terrorists. But that's probably not the same thing. I mean, I'm probably way out there saying that that's at all the same. Well, I would argue with the media picture painting terrorists as Muslims, they would probably also say that all Christians are homophobes based on this case. Just my opinion, right? But who am I to judge? The entirety of the media world and the court case and so on and so forth. But it's just so very strange that this is the case. And I get so mad that there are people out there who are just like, oh, so you guys are gay? Yeah, I don't like you because of that. And you just bloody fuck off. Like, what's wrong with you? I mean, seriously. I'm open to interpretation. I'm open-minded. You can come with your argument in the comment section below, and you can tell me why I'm wrong. But from where I'm standing, and I'm not saying I'm standing on a pedestal or anything, I would say that I'm down in the mud, in the nitty-gritty, and the reality of it. How can people being gay be a problem for anyone? And especially when we're talking like making a cake, staying in business, making a bloody fucking cake. It's ludicrous. The only people I can argue should have a problem, any form of problem, with any stretch of the imagination, with people and their sexuality, should be people in marketing, because they would have a problem generalizing someone based on just looking at them and being able to target them with the right sort of advertisement. That's kind of the only issue I can see with people being gay, right? That's probably the only semi-legitimized reason that, well, I can't categorize you easily as a marketer. That should be the only kind of semi-problem, which, I'm just going to stress this again, which isn't a problem. It's just a basis for judgmentality. Anyway, but this court case, I mean, can we bloody fucking believe that this fucking idiot started chanting Christian, his Christian belief that he probably solely believed in? Well, all fairness to him, right? But isn't Christianity in all religions, for that matter, about being a good person and being good towards everybody else around you, creating a better world for both you and other people? So, in that sense, how can you justify not serving this gay couple by the basis of religion? And how can that hold up in court? I mean, if I would have gotten that case, I would probably say something along the lines of, well, you're basing your entire argument on that we cannot, as a jury, right, or as a court, rule against you because of your religion, because that's religion discrimination. However, you obviously have a very wrong interpretation of your religion that you state is true. Because, well, I cannot believe that the same Pope that's saying that, well, renewable energy, love to all the people, open-minded at its best, saying to all people in the world, oh, I love you all and you're children of God or whatever, and accepting other people's religions, accepting other people's way of life, can believe in the same Christianity as this guy standing in his shop and being like, I ain't gonna serve you too because you love each other and I think that's unnatural and wrong. And you're just like, fuck off, you twat. Anyway, I believe that my opinion on this little case and this little news piece has been very well demonstrated, and I'm just going around and around and around in the same, what you would say, pattern here. But baseline, religion can be good, as we can see from the Pope's action, interacting, saying, progressing in society. But it can also be very bad, people using it as kind of a shield to just be a general asshole. I mean, fuck off. As I said, it's really wrong on so many levels that this was passed through court, but that's kind of what makes it hilarious, because it's so wrong. It should never have happened. They should just have gone in, if they took it to court, and the court should just have been like, oh, so you don't want to serve these people because they're gay? Yeah. Well, that's discrimination in itself. Rule in favor of the couple, you're an asshole. probably send you to jail if I had anything to say about it, in order to minimize this kind of negativity in society. Obviously, you can't throw people in jail based on just their opinion if it's not very fanatic, which I would argue to some extent this is. But okay, it's probably accepted by society in some form or fashion, which is probably why it's not seen as fascism to discriminate against a group of people based on nothing else than, their categorization, which is horrendous on so many levels. But sure, fucking stupid asshole piece of shit. Anyway, let's try and move past that, because I'm sure that's going to come around and bite me in the ass later on. I don't know if it's going to be a matter of hours or a matter of years, but I'm probably going to need to stand there and eat those words up or defend them, because I think that it's very defendable. It's very reasonable to defend that he was wrong and they were right, based on the information I had. Right? Or have right now, which is the same one as I've introduced to you. Right here, right now, which it wasn't much, but still, there was no basis for the behavior. Anyway, let's try and move on to the to the news that's more regards to me. And that is that, well, yesterday I kind of graduated. Moving from the utmost negativity to the medium-sized positivity, because I see it as a milestone. I talked about this yesterday in the pre-release video that I did. And that was obviously before I had a graduation. And now I've had it. And I'm standing by that statement. I did not see this as anything more than a milestone. Not saying that the degree was not saying that it was bad or not good enough for me, right? It was really good. I've enjoyed the experience here. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. There's many things I can thank the university for where I'm standing from right now. But when I was celebrating it, I was celebrating it in a sense of, this is a milestone. This is kind of a brick in the house that I'm building that is my life. It's not the end point of my academic career, so to say. So for me, it was more like, I honestly couldn't give a crap. Even when we were standing on stage, people were like, yes, we did it! And I was just standing there entirely motionless. I was just thinking like, is there something wrong with me that I'm not, I'm not anticipating this moment at all? I would rather just skip this and start a new master's directly if I could during the summer. Is that something we can do? No. I wasn't scared at all. Usually I'm, a bit nervous for these kind of things, standing on stage, people looking at you. But this time, zero. I didn't give a crap. They could have said midway through that, you know what, we're going to cancel it. And I would have been like, sure, bye. It was really, really strange. And I assume that I will not realize how much of a joyful experience this was, and how much I really enjoyed graduation until a couple of months in the future. Then I will review it and be like, wow, this was actually amazing. As one of the speakers said, a student speaking on the behalf of all the students, he was really good, by the way. If any of you see this and know who it is, 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 actually, should be working with politics or religion or anything else where you're standing up and talk to people just all day, because whew, CEO material, I tell you. Anyway, that was probably the highlight for me of the entire graduation, of the graduation ceremony. After that, we had a bit of a banquet, met my family, which was always great, went out for drinks later, which was also fun. And for the first time in a very long time, and this is going to sound really strange to a lot of you, probably, I enjoyed the party of the evening more than I did the formality of the evening, or rather of the day. Because usually I'm a guy who likes formality, right? I like structure. I like the organization of it all, right? And I like this being, being formal. But for me, yesterday, graduation, one of the old places where I thought that, really gonna enjoy the formality, I didn't. And I enjoyed the after party more. Like way more. We're talking like 40 times more. Which is great, I guess. Great after party, but still, weird for me. I'm running out of time here on the DSLR, so have a nice one, mates. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.